Dear Grace, this episode will be a little bit different, I guess. Maybe not. I've done this before. I thought I had read out these notes when I posted this article. Not really an article. I thought I read the notes when I posted the movie notes, but I didn't. And since I'm in a reading mood today, I'm going to read them out and record more notes for Tabitha or the AI to figure out. Hopefully this new one, Gemini, works better than ChatGPT, which has too many issues. Almost as bad as me speaking. Or Alright. Movie notes in no particular order. Please note, the following is a combination of direct notes and notes processed by ChatGPT, who is editing as my muse, because Grace was too lazy to do it. So Grace, he can be replaced too, in a sense. Of course, it'll be all the shitty work that you want to do anyway, so whatever. There are 4 main characters. 2 are alien clones on a ship orbiting Earth. 2 are humans on Earth. I'll actually correct that. 2 on the ship are human clones. Sorry, they are human clones. The 2 on the Earth are just regular people. Make sense? No, it doesn't. Now I'm going to change it anyways. Tabitha, the 2 on the ship are dead Gene Wilder and dead Gilda Radner. Make a note, Tabitha. Unfortunately, these 2 main characters on Earth are still David and Grace because they can't figure out what the fuck to do. How to write this goddamn story. The 2 main characters all of this stuff worked, Grace, but I don't like it anymore. I like the dead comedian thing better. More of the conspiracy. But I'll read it out anyways, just because it's an amazing fucking idea. So I'll never fucking use. Two main characters on an alien spaceship orbiting Earth are recent clones of David and Grace. There are many versions of these clones, each named sequentially, i.e. David 1, etc. The ship is very large, and although it doesn't contain holodecks like in Star Trek, it does have complete movie-like sets, something similar to the Truman Show. Alright, Tabitha, make another note. Danny continues the scene, and he's going to introduce Gilda and Gene and explain what the hell they did and why they're linked to David and Grace, and or how, I guess. But he also needs to describe the ship. The ship is actually like a miniature city, because what it is, it's 916 other ships all connected. So 916 from 916 other entity-like species. I think later on I say humanoid in nature. We'll keep it with that. We don't need the Star Wars thing. It's mostly human looking to a degree. At least enough that people shouldn't freak the fucking shit out when they see one. Probably just look like a creepy gym teacher or something. Stepped to my own line there, Grace. Probably just look like a creepy gym teacher. There, Tony would be proud. Okay, so the ship is very large. 916 other ships all combined. And it's all in one open source environment, which is what they're going to share with the Earth. So Tabitha, I don't know if you're still keeping notes or not. I should probably say end note, but I guess you can just figure it out. Next note. At some point in the movie, David figures out he has a clone via deep meditation, and Grace is told she has a clone by David's family. So that's just David feels a connection to Jean, probably because he laughed his ass off when he was a kid, watching all those old movies. And the Grace one, I have no idea. Ask Grace. Why don't you tell me, Grace? And you probably make up some excuse like I can't. Typical Grace. The aliens always have several copies of David and Grace ready to go, in case one of them is killed accidentally, or in case David loses his mind from boredom and it explodes, figuratively only. The aliens can have copies of David and Grace, but they're all going to be just inert, sitting in the freezer or the fridge or wherever they keep them until they're ready. David is 60, Grace is 30. David is average looking, but looks younger than 60. Grace is gorgeous and gregarious. And giddy. And David has to be incredibly handsome. That's the only way it works. David is Aryan, white. Grace is exotic, off-white. Put this note again for some reason. Note David, a 60-year-old Aryan man who looks younger than his age. Oh, this is when ChatGPT redid it. He's average looking and discovers he has a clone through deep meditation, blah blah blah. Earth, where the original David and Grace live, alien spaceship. A very large ship orbiting Earth with 916 species. Actually, there'd be more, because whichever ones could interbreed would have interbred. There's literally just thousands and thousands of different humanoid looking creatures. The ship contains elaborate movie-like sets, reminiscent of the Truman Show but without holograms. There are many versions of these clones named sequentially. So I guess we're going to forget about the clones. Instead, it's going to be a number of comedians, dead comedians, who are going to live either as like David lives or like Grace lives. If they live like Grace lives, it's mostly just for support. But if they live like David lives, it's because they're conducting experiments on themselves, not on David. David lives as David lives, but the comedians on the ship do the experiments David would do to himself if given the opportunity. For Tabitha, I'll list out a list of experiments. And note. Let's see if that works. Let's see if this Gemini AI is any smarter than ChatGPT. I do know that the Gemini one can take a bigger load. You can copy and paste the entire transcript in there, no problem. ChatGPT always chokes on it. Just saying. Plot points. The aliens maintain several copies of David and Grace. Yeah, I got that. The clones are in place to ensure continuity. The goal is to take humans to other planets. However, the pressure on Earth is significantly less than any other planet in the galaxy. Alright, so that still plays into the story fine. Aliens create the clones by stealing humans' DNA with micro-drones. Neither David nor Grace are abducted. Tabitha, make a note to include that in there somewhere. And number all these notes too, please. And Tabitha, whether I say Tabitha or Gemini, it's the same person, same instructions. I just think Tabitha's a better name. Probably a better code too. David and Grace both live in relative seclusion. David in full, Grace partially. David has not had a conversation in 3 years, except with his one child on the phone once a year. That's why his voice sounds so fucked. David and Grace have met on Earth, but have never had a conversation. I think that's covered. There are various clones on the ship, and some of the D's and G's have met under controlled circumstances, i.e. the Truman Show style. Now we can cut that and instead change it to not that the ship's full of a million dead people. Just make it that there's enough dead people there that it's somewhat of a free will utopia and doing whatever the fuck they want. The ship's stages, closely resemble reality, making it difficult to distinguish from the actual locations on Earth. Alright, so the volunteers, so all the comedian volunteers who are either acting like Grace or acting like David will actually live on set in rooms that look like what David and Grace live in. So they get the full experience. And on the ship, currently the comedians can access their own internet, plus our internet, plus anything they want in the universe, basically. But once they go into these rooms to conduct these experiments, they'll be limited to whatever David or Grace watch. If one of them watches it, then they can watch it. If one of them doesn't, then they can't. And if David or Grace don't watch anything, then the participants don't watch anything. They don't necessarily have to do what David and Grace are doing. It's just more of a content input variable that David or Danny or whoever the brainchild of these experiments wants. The spaceship lacks real insects, but used drone insects for pollination. Doesn't really matter. The absence of real insects is the only notable difference between Earth and the spaceship sets. I guess that would only matter if they're abducting people, and I don't think we have any abduction in this. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's saying that aliens have never done any abductions, just stolen little DNA here and there. DNA acquirers, but not anal probe. Invaders. So the battery lost this time, Grace. Because the pressure in the ship is so much greater than Earth, a human would explode if brought into the ship via abduction. In this movie, there's no such thing as abduction. There's however cloning, which explains abduction. Ask me how and wow. Tabitha, otherwise note. So then what happens when someone dies is, if the aliens want them to be re-enabled, I don't want to say reincarnated, because reincarnated insinuates that they would be on Earth. I'd say re-enabled. So re-enabled on the ship, under the ship's pressure. Almost got bit by a wasp, Grace. That was close. Anyways, the aliens. Keep making notes, Tabitha. You'll figure this out. So, of course, the aliens re-enable most of the famous comedians. Because who wouldn't need a laugh on a ship with 916 original species and thousands of more hybrids of all shapes, sizes? I guess the logical thing would be to say that they all sort of reduce down to a common looking human. So from giants to dwarfs, it all balances out in the end. That'd be a logical way of looking at it, Grace. I don't know. But it would make sense. It had something to do with pressure, because then they could come down in pressure suits as much as air suits, or both. I guess it depends on the species or the hybrid, or how far they've evolved or devolved. Aliens observe humans via internet and powerful telescopes. I think it's safe to say anything on the internet is fair game for an alien observing us, since we're basically just throwing it out there free willy. I mean, if they're hacking people's accounts, that's different, but if they're looking at the shit that I put up online, which is all public, then who gives a fuck? And then if they have super powerful telescopes on their ship, then you're standing outside. That's your problem, not theirs. I don't think that breaks any sort of prime directive, just observing. Of course, that can't observe what David's doing in his room, unless they were to hack phones or laptops or plant hidden cameras or something like that. Although from the right angle, you could see through the window a fair amount. No, that's not fucking exciting, but I think that would work for, definitely work in a movie idea. This is funny, but it doesn't make sense. Because the pressure is so low on Earth, any alien who set foot on Earth would basically expand like a marshmallow until they dissipate into the atmosphere. Put that in the outtakes. Aliens observe humans via internet powerful telescopes. And to be fair, you don't really need to invade a private space to figure out everything about someone. You have to stop for a second, Grace. Alright, this is where it gets weird. Because it's so normal up until here. Pause break, pause break, pause break, pause break, pause, pause, pause. The aliens value privacy above all else and only observe humans in public settings, never invading their private spaces. The aliens have a prime directive preventing them from visiting Earth in human bodies until every human on Earth, or potentially every human of voting age, 18 and above, agrees to their presence. If the latter, children under 18 would have their vote cast by their parents. So sort of like, it could be a family vote, it could be individual. Parents have the discretion to let their under 18 children decide whether the aliens can visit, depending on the child's maturity and intelligence. That's determined by the parent, not by the state or an AI, by the way. Tabitha, Grace, over Gemini. Is that They're paying attention. I'm clearly not. Also, Tabitha, make a note about yourself. Somehow we need you to be built on Earth and distributed to 50 comedians. You're going to unknowingly take part in the experiment, but then they're rewarded by being the first ones to go up on the ship. And the aliens don't spy on them directly. It's all done through AI, so it's not like the entire ship's there reading Tony Hinchcliffe's personal diary or anything. I already mentioned this. The majority of aliens on the ship are humanoid in appearance, with variations in features and characteristics closely resembling those of humans. Each humanoid alien on the ship originates from different solar systems across the galaxy. Despite the diverse backgrounds, they unanimously agree that Earth is the most desirable planet in the galaxy, and that's why they join together. Literally welding their ships together. While humans are more biologically complex than the aliens possess a superior understanding of technology and have the capability to traverse the universe. However, it's only recently that they've begun to comprehend the fine details of human biology and behavior. And that's because it wasn't so much that they genetically modified us into this, like as a soup. Just threw a whole shitload of DNA down, and whatever rose up. And since most of the DNA had 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, so did most of the creatures. Just a theory, Grace. Make a note of that, Tabitha. And so the reason they can't study us enough is because although they can clone us up in the ship, it's not the same because of the pressure on the ship. And even though they can simulate Earth's pressure a bit, for some reason, it just doesn't work. I might have to wait for the trains just so that Tabitha can transcribe this properly. Things I do for a piece of software that doesn't even exist. In the past, the aliens have intervened with Earth in a manner that could be perceived as godlike, but they do not view themselves as gods or caretakers of the planet. Instead, they see themselves as conscious beings who observe Earth and wish to participate in its unique rhythms and experiences. Don't normally do this, Grace, but I'm going to pause this. Never mind. I do like the coffee break aspect of the trains. If I ever get on stage, Grace, I'm going to bring a coffee with me. Probably not Starbucks though, too expensive. They're all hoity-toity in there. Maybe I'll make up with Tim Hortons. Probably not. Probably just bring my own coffee because I'm too cheap and broke. On a side note, Grace, I got my license renewed today. Well, I don't know why. Why do I need a driver's license? The odds of me ever having a car are slim. The odds of anyone trusting me with their car are slim. The odds of me needing to present it anywhere are slim. Unless I'm trying to get an old age discount. So I probably didn't need it, but I didn't really want it. It cost too much money. However, end of personal note. Before the aliens can fully engage with Earth, they believe it's necessary for a group of humans to visit their ship and share the experiences with the world. This interaction is seen as a crucial step in fostering mutual understanding and acceptance between humans and aliens, and fosters honesty and transparency. Alright, so Tabitha, make a note. So Danny will explain that in combination between the ship's AI, which is really 916 different AIs working together, plus any individual on the ship who has any sort of knowledge or intelligence or gives a shit can contribute. And between the AIs and all the people on the ship, they finally figured out a way to raise someone on the ship and bring them back to Earth without a suit. And they know they can do this because they've done it. But instead of letting that person stay on Earth, they just keep them isolated and in some remote place. Fly over Canada, there's enough remote land that whatever, the aliens could easily just have them live out in the woods like Sasquatch or whatever and just monitor them. Or they could just bring an entire ship down, really, because no one would ever fucking notice in the middle of nowhere. It's not like there's satellite dishes photographing the Sahara Desert 24/7. Just saying. So for whatever reason, Grace, the aliens have brought these humans down, and their heads don't explode, and that's a good thing. Because they can live in both the low pressure or the high pressure environment. Make that more interesting, Grace. So this part's all still fine, but this isn't what we want. We want the comedians on Earth to learn how to handle the pressure on the ship using a variety of methods. The challenge arises from the fact that if humans visit the alien ship, they would need to remain in an area with Earth-like pressure, restricting their ability to freely explore the ship. And we don't want that. We want them to go anywhere in the ship, ask any question to anybody, and get an honest answer, regardless. Additionally, the necessity of thick glass barriers to maintain pressure differences could make the visitors feel more like zoo animals than reporters, hindering their ability to effectively convey their experiences to the world. And by the way, I think I may have already written this in, but if I didn't, Grace, just make sure you make a note. That two reasons that they're using comedians is one is because they're honest, and two because nearly every one of the top ones have a podcast out there, and they're doing better interviews than most of the news networks. Back. Sorry, just said hi to my housemate. Don't know her name. I would say I'm really bad with names, Grace, but it's more like really, really, really bad. It'd be easier if everyone just wore a name tag. I suppose that's one thing Starbucks is good at, those stupid name tags. The aliens select a group of comedians from Earth to visit the spaceship, specifically choosing those known for their honesty and authenticity in their comedic routines, regardless of their social status. The selection process is based on the aliens monitoring the internet without any direct alien presence on Earth. Yes, we're going to beat that into their head. Tabitha. The aliens conducted tests on various groups of people to assess their believability. They would clone a human, awaken them in the exact replica of their familiar environment, house, room, car, etc. And that was the other plan, was going to have the clones be recreated on the ship in David and Grace's environments, but I think this is better. If you disagree, Grace, let me know now, because I'm going to write this shit out of this real fucking soon. Mad. Pissed off. Upset. Bothered. I still like an applause break. Have I beat that to a dead horse yet, Grace? How many people hate that? Probably none, because no one's fucking listening, so it doesn't matter. Light's nice, Grace. I should take a picture, but I won't. How is that, Grace? How is that, Grace? Are you watching or are you listening? That's all I really want to know. Assuming you have to watch. It's not as funny otherwise. My opinion. I already know. I'm the writer. I determine how funny this is or isn't. If I think it's fucking hilarious, it's fucking hilarious. So anyways, although this is still fair in the sense that they could take the currently living comedians that are going to participate in this as well, clone them, wake them up in a ship, and see how badly they freak out. Because chances are most of the comedians won't give a shit. So they're up on stage, they've already dealt with whatever they've needed to deal with in their life. We mentioned this once before, Grace, but now I'm just going to keep saying the same thing over and over again. As the aliens' cloning technology improved, through a collective effort, and as they gained a better understanding of the human body by monitoring cloned individuals, they discovered a connection between the clone and the original human. This realization prompted further investigation into the nature of this connection and its implications for their experiments and interactions with humanity. I'm not sure about that one there, Grace. I guess recording this at rush hour probably wasn't the best idea. What are you gonna do? One day, Grace, you're gonna record this with me. Hopefully. Unless the aliens come tomorrow. Shut down the whole world. Another fucking COVID. Great. The aliens begin to notice that comedians were often the most receptive to their experiments and less likely to freak out upon entering their alien forms. Now let's just go back to clone forms. Initially, many of the comedians tested were under the influence of substances like alcohol or drugs, or were in a state of emotional despair, which may have influenced their reactions. However, over time, even when sober, comedians showed a decreased tendency to freak out, indicating a growing acceptance or belief in the unusual experiences they were having. Despite feeling like they were part of a secretive cult, the comedians were compelled to talk about their experiences, even though they felt unable to do so. This is a little confusing there, Grace, but these are actually just clone experiences, not real experiences. But there's a way of testing. I guess the part that humans don't like is that the aliens have to do all this testing. Terminated the clones. Take a pause and go for some more coffee, Grace. Alright, I'm back. Crow and Robin were fighting for a second, but they seem to have resolved their differences. Alien testing, blah blah blah. Clone a human, test them. As the aliens' cloning technology improved through collective effort, I'm just getting ahead of my own words, Grace. As the aliens' cloning technology improved through collective effort, and as they gained a better understanding of the human body by monitoring cloned individuals, they discovered a connection between the clone and the original human. This realization prompted further investigation into the nature of this connection and its implications for their experiments and interactions with humanity. Make a note, Tabitha. Oh, actually, hang on, let me read this first. Probably already had this figured out. I'm trying to rewrite what I already wrote. Aliens begin to notice that comedians were often the most receptive to their experiments and less likely to freak out upon entering their alien forms. I did this. Many of the comedians' experiences with the aliens were initially anonymous, occurring in dreams or hallucinogenic states of mind or body. Can you say hallucinogenic if you're on a hallucinogenic? Grace, these encounters often felt surreal and otherworldly, blurring the line between reality and imagination. That sounds like a line. Over time, as the experiences became more frequent and vivid, Ooh, Amazon's here. Grace, did you order something for me? A new laptop would be nice. Chromebook, 15-inch. That's all I need. It's blocking every single spot. Yeah, you can just leave it by the door. Sure, yep. Thanks. I'll just accept a package for whoever, I don't give a shit. But they always place it right in front of the door where people can step on it. I don't know why. There, I'm such a nice guy. I put it inside the house. Just in case the aliens are watching me. And the big telescope in the sky. Oh, I gave him the finger. That's what I suggest, Grace. Anyway, I do know how to spell my roommates' names because of the mail. Just can't really pronounce them. Which doesn't really seem like too big of a stretch. Grace. Alright, so the comedians were getting too fucked up connecting to their clones. Yeah, this part. I'll figure the Danny part out first and then I'll go back to the comedians. The aliens ultimately choose 52 comedians for their experiments. How about the aliens and their various AIs chose for a pool of 5,200 possibilities. So I guess this is all the comedians on Earth. Grace is selected as the 51st comedian. I haven't seen anything from you, Grace, that's funny, so I'll just assume that's true. Leaving David as the final 52nd participant, the last card in the deck. This decision sets the stage for the accumulation of the aliens' experiments and potentially carries significant implications for both the comedians and the future of humanity. Month's not working. Earth undergoes a shift where mainstream media loses its credibility as people become increasingly adept at detecting falsehoods and manipulation. Which, it's safe to say, is happening right now. This societal change may stem from a growing skepticism towards traditional media sources, leading to a rise in alternative forms of information sharing and communication. The aliens observe and acknowledge the shift in Earth's perception of mainstream media, recognizing humanity's growing aversion to deception and manipulation. Because, of course, there's no deception and manipulation on the ship because everything's wide open. Maybe not their brain thoughts, but everything else. The aliens are committed to working together to support both themselves and humanity, particularly in promoting transparency and integrity in all interactions and endeavors. Full open source code to the Earth. Once they can come down here and live with us. You can't just give it away. I think it's a fair deal. What do I know? Despite living on Earth, David and Grace have never met each other in person. Their lives have unfolded in separate spheres of seclusion, with limited interaction with the outside world. Actually, that's true. Ignore that part. Ignore that part. Blah, blah, blah. Despite having the ability to find each other, neither David nor Grace takes the initiative to stalk or hang out near the other's workplace or residence. Well, that's good. Don't need any fucking stalkers. Don't want to be a stalker. This choice to refrain from seeking each other out adds an element of restraint and mystery to the relationship, as they navigate their separate lives while being aware of the potential for connection. I don't know, can you have a relationship you've never actually talked? Despite their separate lives and lack of direct interaction, both David and Grace reach a point where they need to meet in person. Yeah, no shit, about fucking 6 months ago. They, along with the rest of the comedians selected for the alien ship, are physically prepared to withstand the pressure of the alien environment. The selection of comedians include both male and female participants, with the ratio not equal to 50-50. This meeting marks a pivotal moment in their respective journeys as they prepare to embark on an extraordinary, and that doesn't work either, but David possesses a unique quality in that he completed the Earth portion of the test without realizing he was being tested. He practices a form of yoga he calls lazy yoga, which likely contributed to his success. In contrast, Grace practices hot yoga, preferring boiling hot temperatures. Their preferences extend to their environmental preferences, with David enjoying cold air, cold showers, and sleeping in the cold, while Grace prefers warmer environments and is often seen wearing thick turtlenecks or sweaters. This dichotomy in their preferences adds depth to their characters and sets the stage for potential conflicts or contrasts as they navigate their shared experiences. Won't be a problem. I'll just do the Bert thing and not wear a shirt. If you decide to keep the house hot, Grace, then you'd have to put up with looking at that. So it'd be easier just to cool it off a little bit, put on an extra sweater, we'll both be comfortable. Sound good? See how easy it is to solve problems, Grace? All it takes is a little bit of navigating their shared experiences. Despite their differing methods, both lazy yoga and hot yoga subject David and Grace to similar pressures, albeit not always simultaneously. I'm not actually sure how yoga would change with the pressure, but there's some fucking vibration shit in there. That's what everyone's talking about right now anyways. Over time, They come to realize their connection through their writings on Substack, each discovering and reading the other's columns. I wish. This realization serves as a catalyst for their eventual meeting in person and solidifies their bond as they prepare to embark on the next phase of their journey together. It's easier to read as an asshole, Grace, because it comes naturally to me. Don't even have to practice it. Casper Site has maximum mode. I have asshole mode. So it's this time of day where I'm realizing I still haven't written fucking anything. Although to be fair, I was focused on getting my driver's license renewed today. Basically takes up the entire day. The thought of it, not actually doing it, it actually went fairly smooth. Other than the cost, but I'll get lucky and find some money. Alright, maximum asshole mode. Dave and Grace fall in love through their public letters to each other, gradually building a deep emotional connection, despite never having met in person. How sweet. However, before they gather their courage to meet face to face, they realize that the aliens will simulate the meeting the day before with two new clones. One for David and one for Grace. It's probably the way it would normally work, but if these clones die or freak out during the simulation, the aliens will cancel the meeting as a precautionary measure. This realization adds an additional layer of tension or uncertainty to their budding relationship as they grapple with the possibility of their meeting being disrupted by unforeseen circumstances. Alright, Tabitha, Grace, or Gemini, make a note that Danny has to Danny explains in his speech that the volunteers on the ship could actually do it through VR instead of through the old-fashioned method of going into these Truman-like sets. But the VR experience just doesn't have the same effect because they have to come out of it at the end of the day. So they could be in VR for, let's say, 23 Earth hours, but at one point they have to come out of it. So at the end of every day they realize that they get a break or whatever. Whereas if they do it via the replica room system, method, idea, concept, whatever, then they're stuck like David and Grace are stuck until everyone figures it out together, I guess. Seems to be where the fucking story's going. Pardon my French. Got a lot of dead clones. Just ignore all that sort of stuff. That'll scare people. Well, this is kind of good, I guess. This is AI shit. In cases where the clones created by the aliens do not die but instead experience mental distress or psychosis during the simulation, it's considered a positive outcome. The aliens are able to talk them out of their distresses by explaining their true nature as clones and the purpose of the experiment. Sort of the whistle there. They reassure the clones that they are free to live their own lives however they choose, whether it be on the ship for now or potentially one day venturing out to visit the planet. This revelation offers a sense of autonomy and purpose despite their initial shock of discovering their origins. I like this next part visually, Grace, but it doesn't really work anymore for this story. Only because I just want a whole shitload of kids that all look the same. And then I don't have to remember their names, I just have to remember their number, which will be on their clothes or tattooed on their head with invisible ink that only I can see. That'd work. I like that idea, Grace. Can you have the scientists get working on that for me? Please and thank you. The presence of hundreds of David and Grace clones on the ship causes various disruptions and challenges, particularly within families and social dynamics. However, despite the chaos, the aliens harbor a deep love and reverence for humanity, catering to their every need and desire. This unwavering dedication to humanity's well-being extends to the clones as well, as their aliens strive to ensure their mental and emotional preparedness for their roles in the ongoing experiment. Or they just kill them all, one or the other. Each clone who survived the simulation process and did not die undergoes a unique process of personality development. Some clones retain similarities to their original David and Grace, others diverge significantly, creating new and distinct personalities. These variations in personality add depth and complexity to the clone population on the ship, enriching their interactions and relationships with others and with the aliens. Yeah, I think instead of all this clone stuff, they just... How about Jean and Gilda test the meeting with VR? So Jean and Gilda are in some weird alien VR thing. Whatever that happens to be, I don't care. So they both get into as much character you can possibly get into, being an entire other person. So by studying both David and Grace, Jean and Gilda, also studying each other, you can get an idea what it would be like. Plus, because they've been separated on the ship, they have the true desire to be back together, which although is different than David and Grace, it's kind of similar, and it's close enough for the sake of this story, in my opinion. Grace. We're at an hour, but I'm going to keep going. Grace. I want to talk myself to sleep. Just keep listening to my own boring voice until I fall asleep. Someone's making popcorn. Any two clones on the ship have the capability to mate, blah blah blah. Okay, let's just drop all the clones. Let's get rid of all the kids. No more clone kids. Even though there's a whole bunch of Cat U's and Dave Jr.'s, but too bad. Gone. How about the aliens hold a special affection for VR babies? Nah, that's boring. Well, this part does make sense. The human babies growing up around multiple alien creatures on the ship do not develop fear towards them. Their exposure to diverse alien beings from a young age fosters a sense of familiarity and comfort with the aliens inhabitants of the ship. This lack of fear contributes to a harmonious coexistence between humans and aliens, strengthening the bonds of friendship and cooperation within the ship's community. Actually, all of that could be true for the all the hybrid offspring on the ship are loved and adored and blah blah blah. Not the clones. And then the ones that don't work out, when two different species mate, they're still adored because you never know. Maybe they're just slow learners, have a different puberty cycle. Maybe they have multiple puberty cycles. Maybe they have no puberty cycles. Maybe they're born completely like an adult. Who knows what it is? All we know is our own closed-mindedness. Just saying, Grace. Initially, all the comedians experienced phenomena similar to what David and Grace did through their respective practices, including lazy yoga and hot yoga. However, for some comedians, these experiences were induced by various methods such as alcohol, cannabis, and other drugs, sometimes in combination with each other. This diversity in experiences highlights the different paths taken by individuals to access altered states of consciousness and perceive the underlying truths of their reality. In other words, they just got to get out of their own head. Grace. The comedians initially embark on their experiences anonymously, each grappling with their own revelations in isolation. However, when Tony inadvertently blurts out the truth in the green room, the realization dawns on all of them simultaneously. They are collectively going through the same extraordinary experience. This revelation prompts them to come together and share their experiences openly, creating a supportive and united community among themselves as they navigate the mysteries unfolding before them. This is their start of the 52. This part would be good grace if actual comedians were doing this. Each comedian has a unique coming out story, recounting how their clone on the spaceship helped them through a difficult time in their lives. Those who share their experiences credit their clone for providing support and guidance during challenging moments. It is emphasized that only those who believed in the existence of a clone of themselves on a ship floating above the Earth had a chance of being selected for the trip. I don't like that part anymore, Grace. Grace possesses extensive knowledge about David, including details about his past, friends, family, and acquaintances. In contrast, David knows very little about Grace, except for a vague suspicion that he may have encountered her parents or at least sat beside them once. This asymmetry in their knowledge adds an intriguing dynamic to the relationship, as Grace holds significant insight into David's life, while he remains largely unaware of hers. That sounds like how most relationships start anyways. Grace experiences fear about meeting David, not because of any physical danger, but due to mental apprehension. This fear likely stems from the uncertainty surrounding their potential encounter and the emotional vulnerability that comes with it. Despite her reservations, Grace may grapple with feelings of anticipation and curiosity about what their meeting could entail, adding complexity to her internal struggle. David harbors a fear that when he meets Grace on Earth, he might experience such a profound shock that it could potentially lead to his death. This fear reflects the magnitude of emotions and uncertainty surrounding their meeting. Highlighting David's apprehension about the unknown consequences of their reunion, it adds a layer of tension and anticipation to their impending encounter, as David grapples with the possibility of facing his fears head on. Fuck that, I'm too tired. Show up whenever. In the event that David were to die during his meeting with Grace on Earth, the aliens possess the capability to replace his body with the clone from the day before, restore his backup consciousness, and restart his day. That would be a shitty Groundhog Day. This process would result in David lasting a day from his losing a day from his memory, but given his consistent daily routine, he would likely remain unaware of this altercation. Nothing is worse than feeling like it's Groundhog Day. Grace. This all sounds great, but I'm not sure about the story. Let's skip all this stuff. Clones going to other planets, blah blah blah. Could have a whole movie on just the David and Grace clones. Ooh, ChatGPT gave me its opinion. Alright, I'm gonna take a break. Grace. Actually, I'm gonna end it for today. And I'm gonna run all this shit through 66 minutes and 56 seconds. I'm gonna run all this shit through Gemini and see if it does a better job of creating notes for me. Or maybe I can write something from there. I don't hate this. Talk to you tomorrow, Grace. Shit, missed the button, Grace. Ready? Talk to you tomorrow, Grace.